and I hope Bert shows up so that we can introduce him. And Bill Meyer and Reverend Robert Jones are going to teach us all about music in Detroit. So let me just tell you something about Bill Meyer. He is a jazz pianist, band leader, writer, music director who founded the RGB Trio Open Mic Jam at Bert's 12 years ago, and that's going to be happening this evening. He was a former music director, conductor, and pianist for Motown's Martha Reeves, and currently tours and records with Detroit trumpeter Marcus Belgrade, among many others. Yes, let me see. He is retired from Wayne State University, where he worked since 1967 in the dance department. He is a lifelong activist, which is how I first met him, actually, in the peace and justice movement, for which he has received several awards, including the Community Peacemaker Award from Wayne State University Peace and Conflict Studies, and the Hamtramck Hall of Fame Award from the Hamtramck Public Library. So that's Bill Myers over there. Makes music, and he stirs up trouble. Clifford Jones, Sr. is a singer, storyteller, and self-taught musician who uses folk, blues, spirituals, and other American roots music to champion the beauty and power of our shared culture. A lifelong Detroiter, Reverend Jones has been performing professionally for nearly 30 years locally for festivals, schools, civil rights organizations, as well as union halls, prisons, churches, as well as at national and international venues. He's an award-winning multi-instrumentalist. He plays guitar, harmonica, mandolin, banjo, and fiddle. Whoa! He has recorded 6 albums of original and traditional songs. Robert is the former host of the award-winning radio program Blues from the Lowlands and Deep River, broadcast on Detroit Public Radio's WDT-FM. And he has taught at music history courses at Wayne State University in Detroit. As an ordained minister and a Baptist pastor, he has an unwavering faith in the cultural importance of sacred and traditional American roots music. In addition to his solo performances, he often collaborates musically with his wife, Sister Bernice Jones. He shares his deep love for traditional African American and American musical traditions in live performances that interweave timeless stories with original and traditional songs. Come on in. At the heart of his message is the belief that our cultural diversity tells a story that should celebrate, not just tolerate. As acclaimed photographer James Frayer notes about Reverend Jones, perhaps the world's most highly educated blues musician, an ordained minister, a longtime DJ, and a living encyclopedia of blues history. So these are our two who are going to lead us through the musical scene of Detroit. Let me just say one thing. Make sure U of M students that you sign in with the lady with her hand up, and Detroit students, community students, sign up with this lady over here. Okay, let's give a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Lolita. Always, it's a pleasure to come here and be a part of this evening. This is my second time doing it, and Bill's floating around here somewhere. So, oh, Bill's right there. So, you know, we sort of make this stuff up as we go along in terms of how we present this music or this history. And it's, most of you, I guess, are from Ann Arbor, so the first rule is a red light means stop. For real. Not in Ann Arbor style, real stuff. They will mash you flatter than a nail this. But having gotten that out,
can we turn the mic up or something? Yeah,
cool.
Thank you.
I was born and raised in Detroit, and grew up predominantly on the east side. And I had this grandmother who came straight up from Alabama, from down south. Everything that was good happened down south. So, yes ma'am and no ma'am, that's what you said because you came from down south. And all the food that we ate was the way they made it down south. And of course, the good music came from down south. So even though my grandmother had a real love for many kinds of music, I can't say all kinds, the music she really loved was the stuff that came from down south. There you go. And when I was about 12 years old, I guess, she brought home a record. And it was Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee, these two North Carolina blues musicians. And though I had been exposed to different kinds of blues, I'd been exposed to, the B.B. King kind of sort of rhythm. And I'd been exposed to various kinds of R&B and stuff because we grew up in Detroit. This is the first time I'd heard country blues, which is the stuff that Sonny and Brownie did coming out of Carolina. It was this kind of spontaneous music that I later found out was at the core of American music in our culture. And so a harmonica player who was legally blind and a guitar player who had contracted polio at an early age. So these two guys made their way through life by playing music. And it was very much unlike the kind of music that was going on around. Temptations, Parliament, Funkadelic, all that stuff. You imagine this 12-year-old kid starts listening to stuff that sounds like this. My baby, we never used to fight. We used to love and kiss Saturday night. I came home one morning, she had gone away. Ever since she went away, Lord, though my heart does nothing more than her address is unknown, Lord, like no blues I ever seen. Well, she gone, but I forgot. Tell you the reason why. She had kind of looking, love that would satisfy. She had love like the ocean rolling, boy, that comes in with the tide. Well, I hope, Lord, I hope that come today. She let her love roll by my way and explain me herself, reason why she left. Girl, not forgotten. Tell you the reason why. She had kind of living, love that was satisfied. She had love like the ocean rolling, boy, that comes in with the tide. Well, I hope, Lord, I hope that comes today. She let her love roll by my way and explain me herself, reason why she left. Now, aside from the one man band nature of that kind of music, but for me, I didn't realize growing up in Detroit that music was the music that really helped to shape the popular music of American culture. Then I was just a kid who was falling in love with weird music. Eventually, that music led me to people like Son House and Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters and a lot of other cool people. But to me, the most important part was that you had folks who were moving to Detroit from all over the place, moving to Detroit from the Deep South. African Americans, you had folks who were moving to Detroit from Kentucky and Tennessee, you had folks who were moving to Detroit from Arkansas. And all of those people came with their culture and with their music. And in fact, people who came from different parts of the world, from Italy, Poland, Germany, and all that kind of stuff, and all of this stuff has come to Detroit to become part of the legacy of Detroit's music. So, you know, one of the things that I think Bill and I want to share with you is that these influences are still felt. They're still a part of who we are, even though the music has changed, maybe for some people technologically, the way you use the music has changed for a lot of people. A lot of young people don't even relate to coming to a club like this and listening to live music, because for them, music comes over a device, or it comes into an earbud, or something you carry around with you, or it's something that you trade files with. You know, a musician might agonize in the past about what song should follow another song on an album, because you're trying to give a narrative, you're trying to tell a story. And now people have no compunctions at all about cherry picking. This is my favorite song. This goes into my iPod, and the rest of the album, you know, sort of falls by the wayside. So one of the things that's very cool is when you get into an organic place like this, when you start to hear, especially what's going to happen later on tonight, where the musicians show up and start to jam, and the thing is spontaneous, you're not sure who's going to show up or how they're going to play, that's very much a part of how this music is formed. And it's the stuff that came before auto-tuning, that came before wardrobe malfunctions and explosions on the stage and all that kind of good stuff. This is the reality of the music that helps to create the culture, right? So I think I'm gonna leave it right there, and Bill is somewhere. So there he is, got it. Oh, man. Well, come on, man. You wanna work from behind if you want? Okay, cool. I'm left right there.
Well, that was a great start. Let's give a nice round of applause. I was called him Reverend Jones, and I'm here, Reverend Bill Meyer. Okay, so I'm not going to perform like he does, because I play with the band that starts here at 8:30. I'll play for you when the band gets here. So I just took a few notes, and first of all, I want to make sure that you all feel welcome here at Burt's. This is one of the unique places in the country like this. I travel all over the country and the world, and this is one of the few places where you can come like this and really feel comfortable and down home. This is not a fancy to wear a suit and tie kind of place. You can come down and just let it go, hang out, let your hair hang down, and join the band and have fun and applaud at the solos and yell and scream if you want to, and just enjoy yourself and share the camaraderie of all the kinds of people who come in here, and know that this is freedom land right here in this one little beautiful jazz club. And this is because of a guy named Bert Deering. Bert Deering is a club owner. He's the longest running jazz club owner, music club owner in the city. He's been doing this for 40, 50 years. He's about 90 or 95 or something like that. No, he's not that old. Where are you? Are you here, Bert? No. He'll be here in a minute. I'll introduce you to him. So on behalf of Bert's, we'd like to welcome you here to this very unique establishment. I work here every Thursday night with the RGB Trio. It's an open mic jazz jam, and we've done this for almost 15 years now, every Thursday. And it's the longest running jazz jam session in the city. And we get all sorts of great talent coming in here. Every week it's different. So if you came here every week, like this gentleman does right here, Delaney, and many others who come regularly every week and support us, live music, he hears something every week. And I mean, I've heard him say many times, wow, that was the best night we ever had. I mean, how can it be every night it's the best night? But it's always different, it's always fun. Tonight's one day before Halloween, so I'd like to congratulate you on the Halloween holiday. And this is election season coming up, so let's congratulate each other for having a free elections coming up on Tuesday. And I hope you're going to vote. Some people think that's going to make a change. And they had a big thing in the back room just earlier with 500 people having a free meal and listening to the politicians say what they're going to do for us, and hopefully they'll do it. If not, we'll see them again in 4 years, I'm sure, and or maybe 2 years. I'd like to make a correction on my bio that my dear friend Lolita mentioned. By the way, I want to thank Lolita for doing this class. This is a great thing. All right, Lolita, as you know. Yeah, she's a unique person. She's an activist too, and we've been on the battle line of many issues. peace and justice, anti-racist sort of things, and this city and this country needs a lot of that kind of stuff. So anti-war. I did mention to Gary Peters on his way out, I said, you know how we could save billions of dollars and we could use them for social programs? We could stop the war on terror, we could stop the funding Israel, we could stop spending billions of dollars in senseless areas. So if you agree with me, then you're an activist. Okay. If you don't, then I hope you like music. Okay. Music's the other half of my life. All right, now some other corrections on the bio. Oh, and there's great food. Yes, sir. I worked at Wayne for many years, but I did not start the jam session here. This was started by a lady named Dee McNeil, who was a wonderful singer who opened this thing like a few months before 9/11, as a matter of fact. And then she left after a few months, and we kept it going. So we've been keeping it going, but she started it. And also, I'm not touring with Marcus Belgrave anymore, unfortunately, but that was a lot of fun for many years, and also with Martha Reeves, and got to work with many great performers. It's been a lot of fun. I'd like you to meet some of the people here before I go on with my portion. The reason this is a cool place is that people like, see Donna standing at the bar right there, see Donna? Wave your hand, Donna. She's been here many years. She's one of the people who work here, especially Donna. And sitting at this table over here is my girlfriend. Her name is DJ Holiday. Stand up, DJ. Yeah. Thanks a minute. There she is. All right, now you see the flower in her hair? Do you remember a famous blues singer that used to wear a flower in her hair? Billie Holiday, of course. She's Detroit's Billie Holiday. And she's going to sing later tonight, and you're going to be just thrown up and out of your seat. An unbelievable performance. She's a great, real human singer. It's a beautiful experience to hear her sing. She'll come up later. Okay, we'll have a Q&A, I guess, soon, so I'm not going to talk a lot, but I do want to say I was born 1 mile from here 70 years ago on Mac and Gratiot. And I feel like a Detroiter, like anybody else who lives in Detroit. I was born here, I left for a while. But I think what I want to talk about is not only the music, but the way we get to this music. I don't want to call myself a jazz musician because I really play all kinds of music. I love jazz, and I love rock and roll, I love funk, I love everything. You know, it's as long as you play it and have fun playing it, and it's positive. I love rap music, but especially the positive rap music, the stuff that's really got a message that's important. That's good. I mean, you can't diss the entire form of music like rap music, I mean, or poetry. You know, poetry sucks. I mean, how can you say something like that? How can you say rap sucks? You know, because there's great rap, and there's great rappers. So there's all kinds of music that's good. And I try to get involved with as much as I can, especially if it has a social, political message. So my message is, and I'm going to start saying, so that might rouse some feathers here what I say, but I'm going to say it. I don't think you can talk about Michigan, I don't think you can talk about Detroit, or the music of Detroit, without addressing the one most important issue, and that's race. You know, I'm a white guy, and I can talk about this a little easier than some of my African-American friends who have been unfortunately stifled from telling their true feelings. So some of them tell me their true feelings, and I feel honored. And I feel honored to be playing at this black establishment because I get to see and witness a community, a culture that I wouldn't normally otherwise see. So it's a real honor and a privilege for me to be part of the Bert's audience. And I've worked many years to struggle to fight racism, and I think it's still here. And I don't think we live in a post-racial society or whatever you want to call that. It's in different forms, and it infests everything we do. It affects the music world, and I want to tell you one example. I was just up in Rochester this afternoon at a funeral of a dear friend of mine who passed away, Chuck Moss, a trombonist, who I've worked with maybe 40, 50 years. Great musician, great trombonist. And I have to admit, the place was packed. There were like 200-300 people. There wasn't one African American in that room. There were like 100 musicians. Okay. Well, there was one black singer. I won't mention her name, but more power to her. I'm thrilled she was there. But a lot of times I come to funerals for my friends in Detroit, African American buddies, comrades who passed, Van Cephas, Huey Crawford, and most of the time, 95, 100% of the audience is African American. This is tragic because when I moved back to Detroit here, I was born here, lived here many years, and I lived in Royal Oak for a while in Southfield. When I came back to work in Detroit and gave up that touring scene that I did for so many years, and I had a wedding band, and I had a very successful group and worked with a lot of different musicians and toured with these people that Lloyd mentioned. When I came back here and started working at Burt's, it was a great thrill to right away start at Burt's. We discovered so much talent in this city that came through here every night, every Thursday night. And then I went to other clubs and then I realized, whoa, there's just tremendous talent in this city that nobody north of 8 Mile knows about. And unfortunately, many of the people down here don't know about people like Chuck Moss and all the great musicians that played at his wake this afternoon. So my goal has always been to try to bring people together and find common ground. And I really think that if you talk about music, you talk about art and any form. We're all of the same race. I mean, we're all of the human race. We all have the same exact thing. And we have, other than skin color and language or whatever else you want to say that's different, ultimately we're all humans. And somehow we got to find that common ground, start from there and work from there. But there's people helping us split up and work against us. And we've got to be aware of that. Some politicians. I was very fortunate to work with a lot of people from Motown, but I don't call myself a Motown musician or a jazz musician or any of those. I just think that music in this city can heal a lot of wounds. This club is doing every Thursday night I come here and see people enjoying themselves and having fun with each other. And really, you don't have to think about race. I mean, it'd be nice if we didn't have to think about it. But you can't say there's no racism. You just have to accept people and then admit there is racism and we got to fix it. But in the meantime, enjoy everybody. And that's my approach to music, that's my approach to life. And it's not only African Americans. I live in Hamtramck, but we've got a lot of Muslims in Hamtramck. It's probably the highest percentage of Muslims in the country. We got 65% Muslims in Hamtramck. More than Dearborn, more than any city I know in America. And I hang out in the Bangladesh community and the Yemeni community because I want to absorb their culture, I want to learn about them, be part of them, know that I ain't any different than them, and they know that I don't think they're any different than us. And that's the whole idea, just working together and solving problems. Well, then we don't have to spend billions of dollars on wars and all that other stuff. It'd be much better if we could all find a way to work together. So with that, I'm not going to play a song. I think I've said pretty much what I want to say. I'm going to turn it back to the Reverend Jones, and then if there's any Q&A after that, thank you very much for letting me speak.
Bill is really going to speak volumes a little bit later on with his music. So one of the things I do is I love going into schools and sharing the idea of celebrating diversity, because usually we talk about tolerating one another. And instead of tolerating one another, we should really celebrate one another, because, as I said, the culture that we all live in comes from this mix. Sometimes the mix was willing, sometimes the mix was almost accidental, sometimes the mix was grudging. But the mix is what produced American music. You've got to understand that American music comes from a lot of different places. And early on, think of it coming primarily on boats like the Mayflower and on boats like the Amistad. And if you come on a boat like the Mayflower, you bring your culture with you. You bring your ideas about music, how it's shaped and what it should sound like. You even bring a scale with you. And you think that's the scale. But of course, it isn't the only scale. If you come on a ship like the Amistad, you might play a scale that's a little bit closer to this. They both start in the same place, end on the same place, but they get there differently. Now, that second scale is called the minor pentatonic scale, or we call it the blues scale. And somewhere between the minor pentatonic scale, which is what you hear a lot of improvisation on, and the major pentatonic scale, which underpins so much of American popular music, you've got this mix. So maybe it's easier heard or experienced than explained. imagine you're standing out in front of an old weather-beaten building that's like 1840, and you're down in Alabama or Mississippi, and you hear this music coming from the inside, and it sounds like this. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Now you just arrived at the White Methodist Church. The reason you know it's the White Methodist Church is because they've got hymnals. No matter how many years they've been singing the song, they're doing this. And every note is right on the beat. It's amazing grace. That's the aesthetic of that church. Go 500 feet up the road, and maybe you hear this music coming out of a barn, or a stand of trees, or a stable. This is what Frederick Douglass called the invisible church. This is where, in 1840, those people who were enslaved might go to sing the same songs that they learned from the same missionaries and the same preachers, but somehow it comes out sounding different. Maybe more like, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. The difference between those two versions is what is the difference between two different aesthetics. The folks who came over on ships like the Amistad brought their scale with them, but they also brought what they thought was pretty with them, singing behind the beat, not necessarily sticking always to the notes as written, but kind of climbing the ladder, going up that pentatonic scale. Right? If you go into churches nowadays, you go into the right churches in Detroit, you'll hear that scale being sung. You'll hear that moan. You'll hear, I love the Lord, He heard my cry. And folks will sing that to you. I love the Lord, He heard my cry. And because that music is sung, is learned from mouth to ear. Your grandmother did not take you to a little class to teach you how to sing that. You sat next to her and you heard her sing that. And you grew up singing that. And you grew up appreciating that. And that moan is the same moan that you hear to this day in R&B, in jazz, in blues. You know, the aesthetic can change a little bit depending on the style of the institution. Then when you think about when you're learning this music right next to each other, you have a choice. What aesthetic do you listen to? If you're George Jones, you get, a song like, and I love George Jones, country music. You get a song like, she said I'll love you till I die. She said you forget in time. As the years went slowly by, she still preyed upon his mind. He stopped loving her. They placed a wreath upon his robe. Soon they'll carry him away. He stopped loving her. myself, what would that song sound like if Ray Charles was singing? Right? Same song, same key. It comes. Said I love you till I die. Said you'll forget in time. As the years went slowly by, she still preyed upon his mind. What's changed? The song hasn't changed. The key hasn't changed. What's changed is the aesthetic. And when those two aesthetics come together in American music, it produces the music we listen to now. You think about, I mentioned the minor pentatonic scale. There's a major pentatonic scale. Those 5 notes inform so much of American music that in the 1920s, if you heard a boogie woogie piano player, he or she might be playing something like this. The 1920s. But by the time the 1930s rolled around, a lot of those boogie piano players and honky-tonk players were moving to black churches in the North, trying to find work in the midst of the Great Depression. So they took those 5 notes and those 3 chords with them right into those black churches. And all of a sudden, church music started to sound like boogie woogie. And the new style was called gospel. Like, glory, glory, hallelujah, since I laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I laid my burden down. Friends don't treat me like they used to, since I laid my burden down. Since I laid my burden down. That's the same 5 notes and the same 3 chords, right? 1935, get a guy by the name of Bill Monroe, who's from Kentucky. And he decides he's been listening to blues, he's been listening to music coming out of the Appalachians. He mixes the two together. He calls it bluegrass. Probably the most un-black music you can imagine. White guys with cowboy hats playing the mandolin. But the blue in bluegrass is blues. He listens to a guy named Arnold Schultz. And one of the things that you get from bluegrass is there are 2 players that help to really create the sound of bluegrass. One is a banjo player by the name of Earl Scruggs. The banjo is a traditional black instrument, but not the way Earl Scruggs plays it. And you've got a guy by the name of Lester Flatt, who's a rhythm guitarist. Lester can't keep up with everybody else. So at the end of every verse, Lester plays this. It comes to be called the G run, right? And you end up with songs like, I'm going down the road feeling bad. Well, I'm going down the road feeling bad. Well, I'm going down the road feeling bad. Lord, Lord, I'm going to dance away. Same 5 notes, same 3 chords, right? Now, in the 1940s, you get a guy by the name of Ray Charles. Not Jamie Foxx, but Ray Charles. He's a great band leader who grows up in gospel. And he keeps taking gospel tunes and rewriting them to make them secular tunes. In fact, early on, people say, I ain't going to hell playing the Lord's music in no bar. But again, the same 3 chords, the same 5 notes. In this case, I need some help. One night, Ray runs out of music. Just as an example, runs out of the song. The set is going to be short, and the guy who owns the club wants his full set. So Ray tells the band, that's all right, baby. Just stand back and do what I sing here. You guys are in the band. So are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah. Sing back to me what I say to you. Say, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh. Tell me what I say. 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 Say, oh, It's one of the pioneers of something we now know as R&B. Doesn't end there. Mid-1950s, you get a guy on the Ed Sullivan Show. You guys are too young to remember Ed Sullivan, but some of you here remember him. Very tall, good-looking gentleman, comes out on television. There's only 3 channels on the television. There's nothing wrong with the television, there are only 3 channels. And he comes on Sunday nights and he says, ladies and gentlemen, we have a really good show for you tonight. We have a young man here from Memphis, Tennessee. He uses 3 chords and 5 notes. We think you're really gonna like it. Guy walks out on the stage and he goes, "Sir, one for the money, 2 for the show. You ready now? Go cat, go the gun. Nothing to lose, baby. To a school of 2nd graders and do that now. I don't know why. Elvis been there for like 30 years, but all those 2nd graders know who he is. And I'll ask them, okay, Elvis is the king, right? Yes! King of rock. And I'll say, do you know that rock and roll has at least 2 kings? Has a black king too. There's a guy who's from St. Louis. He's like 90-some years old. His name is Chuck Berry. He's the black king of rock and roll. Still alive. And you think about listening to Chuck Berry. You've got a black man singing country music to a blues beat. Like so. I believe, why can't you be true? But young people are dancing faster and further apart. And people tell Chuck, if you really want to be relevant to these young people coming out of the 50s, you got to speed it up. So Chuck speeds it up. He speeds it up again. He speeds it up so much it becomes something else. It's the same 5 notes. Now, we're from Detroit, or around Detroit. If you take those same 5 notes in the 1960s, and these musicians start to tour, think about this. Now, Bill was talking about the idea of how to heal racial prejudice, how to heal racial distress, and music does that. Think about back in those days, in the 1950s, 54 through 57, there were people who were afraid that white kids would fall in love with black music, and afraid that black kids would fall in love with white music. But there were black kids who wanted to be Elvis, and there were white kids who wanted to be Chuck Berry. And so they were listening to each other's music, even in the 50s, and you can't really hate somebody if you like their music, if you dig their music, right? So by the time the 60s roll around, you have these touring musicians coming to Detroit, going down to the segregated parts of the country, whether you have a rope down the middle of the gymnasium. White kids are supposed to stay on one side of the rope, black kids on the other side. But when those kids hear those 5 notes, and they hear the rhythm, and they hear how they play with the rhythm, they tear it out in the room. I got sunshine on a cloudy day. You guys know that song? Of course you do. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. Help me sing it. Well, I guess you say, what can make me feel this way? My girl, talking about my girl. That's just one example of how those 5 notes, thank you, continue more. And you can't have Motown without R&B. You can't have R&B without gospel. And you can't have bluegrass without blues. And you can't have country. And on the other hand, you can't have blues without the spiritual. And so those things continually bring us together as folks who just love music. And sometimes we go into a school and kids will say, well, that's cool, you know, that's granddad's music. What about now? 2 more examples. One is, those same 5 notes are still being used today. Well, all you girls sitting in the clubs and they're looking at me, feeling like you should put a ring on it, feeling like you should put a ring on it. Now, I love Beyonce, but that is not my gift. Then, one of the things that really turned me on early on in this music was I started listening to people like the people who came before the folks that we normally associate with blues. Old guys like Son House and Charlie Patton, and great singers like, you know, Bessie Smith and Sidney Wallace. And so, one of the guys who ended up retiring here and dying here, as a matter of fact, he's buried here, is a man by the name of Eddie James House Jr. Eddie James House was an influence to Robert Johnson and to Muddy Waters and to Alan Wilson from the group Can't Heat and to Jack White from the White Stripes and to Cassandra Wilson, who's a great jazz performer. And so when you have this music, it does not die, it does not stay in the box that you put it in. So this is one of the songs, and I'll just do a little bit of it so we'll have some time for Q&A. But this is a song that Son House wrote and performed back in 1928. It's called the Death Letter Blues. Down in Mississippi, they would retune the guitar to an open chord. And before there were synthesizers, your synthesizer was this thing, a slide, which allowed you to get in between the notes. So Son House might do a song like this. I said, farewell, little girl. lot of times I'll go into middle school or into a high school, and I'll do that, a little bit of that song, about that much of it, toward the end of the assembly. And then I'll tell the kids, you know, I would really love to do this whole song for you, because the song can have as many verses as he decided to make up. The song could go anywhere from 3 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on how he's feeling that day. It's the spontaneity of the feeling and the idea that blues is a feeling. But I'm going to run out of time because it's almost time for lunch to be served. There's only one way I could do maybe the whole song for you, and that would be to modernize it. Maybe instead of doing each verse twice, I do each verse once. I speed the tempo of the song and fade the music out. In which case this becomes the 1928 Death Letter Blues 2014, the remix. And it ends up sounding like this. Suitcase, took off down the road. When I got there, she was laying out on the cooling board. I ease her close and I look down in her face and say, hey, you know I love you, but I just can't take your place. Seemed like the time I was sitting around the funeral ground, I didn't know how much of love to tell. I put my baby in the ground. For my own day, I walk away and say, hey, you know I love you, I can see you judgment day. You know I work with this money, it was about to break a day. I was sleeping on the pillow where my baby used to lay. I went to church, bowed down, I tried to pray with the blues. My mouth and they blow my spirit apart. We was running about the break of day and I was sleeping on the pillow where my baby used to lay and say, call my name, she didn't come in so loud, but she come in so plain. Yeah, boy. And that is just absolutely illustrative of what Bill was talking about. The fact that, you know, when we start picking and choosing our music, depending on the package that it's in and depending upon the color of the person who's playing it, we don't realize that this music is the synthesis. It is the mix of these cultures that come together. Not only is it black culture, not only is it white culture, but not only is it European or African, but you've got the idea of people who come from the Middle East who help to inform this music, people who come from Asia who help to inform this music, Latin America. And when you start to hear the influences and can appreciate them within the music that we listen to, you realize what a wonderful kind of gumbo Detroit music is. Because it's not that it mixes, it's not a melting pot. It's like each flavor is distinct, but each flavor helps to enhance the other flavors. So if you're here tonight, you're going to hear a clear reflection of that in the form that we might label as jazz, or that we might label as blues, we might label as whatever the style is. But what you listen to are a bunch of souls coming together and expressing themselves musically, you know, through the instruments. But well, I'll tell you, I'll close with this idea. I got to meet a really great, and got to spend a lot of quality time with a really great musician that some people would call a jazz musician. In fact, an avant-garde jazz musician by the name of Farouk Zebay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? No? Farouk was an amazing man. And part of a groundbreaking group called Real Galaxy. And I got to hang out with Farouk along with a poet by the name of M.L. Levy. And Farouk, M.L. and I are in a band heading toward Patterson, New Jersey. And Farouk says, man, we ought to do a little tribute to Coltrane. We ought to do Love Supreme. And I said, Farouk, I played a 1930s steel acoustic guitar. I cannot do Love Supreme. He goes, see, you don't get it. When Train was doing Love Supreme, it was all worship music. It was all praise music. And what Train was doing, man, it's like being in church. When you got the song going, and then folks start shouting, and the Holy Spirit come in. Now understand, for Brooklyn's movement. Holy Spirit come in, and that's what the music is about. So what I need you to do is, I just need you to hold down the song, you know. And then he took that saxophone and he scaled the highs. And then what he ended up by saying is like, you know, Jesus was a Nabi. You know what a Nabi is? I said, no, man, what is a Nabi? A Nabi is like a flame of God. You know, it's like a reflection of God's nature. Jesus was a Nabi. He said, and, you know, Muhammad was a Nabi. And Confucius was a Nabi. And Lao Tzu was a Nabi. And you know what else? I said, no, for real. There ain't but one Nabi. So that's the message. The music is bigger than any package that we tend to put it in. But this is one great place to hear one of the total packages of what we call music. So Bill, you want to come in and do some
That was beautiful. Reverend Robert Jones. And nice cross example of nice history through the blues of the history of music. Galen was reminding me that her father, a famous musician in Detroit, Harold McKinney, did the same sort of thing in jazz and told the whole history of jazz. I also have I do a show myself, a one-man show about the history of piano styles. I'm not going to do anything for you tonight. I'm going to do one number before we open up for Q&A. And if you want to catch any of my stuff online, all my shows are on video and on CDs. You can go to BillMeyerMusic.com, M-E-Y-E-R, BillMeyerMusic.com. In the meantime, I'm going to play one song for you, and then we're going to open up for Q&A. This is the song I do in my one-man show. Now, I invited my wife to come down and see me tonight. I said, hey, why don't you come down and watch me make a fool out of myself? She says, what? Why? I can do that at home. The band's about getting ready to start. I'm going to start about 1:45, 10:02, something like that, with the great Ralph Armstrong and Galen McKinney as a part of the RGB trio. Amazing grace, here's one of the songs in the middle of the show, somewhere around the 20s and 30s. Now, some of you may know of Fats Waller. You ever heard of Fats Waller? Yeah, well, I don't play like him at all, and I don't look like him, and I don't sing like him, but I'm going to try to. And he was a great songwriter, great pianist, great entertainer. He always smiled, he had a lot of fun, and he could really, he loved the piano. So he wrote a song called Handful of Keys. This song celebrates the piano. So I always go for the piano songs, like I love the piano, or Handful of Keys, those kind of things. So this is one of the 20s, 30s, you know, when it started, the piano player started using stride, left hand. Stride is like this. But with one hand. Like, it's pretty tricky to do. You gotta have the right notes and everything, which I don't always do. I like to take them on an old piano. I like to play it in a subtle manner. I get a lot of pleasure with the span of keys underneath my fingertips. I like to sing a little tune that's mellow. I like to vocalize, there's nothing swelling. I gotta have some melody just trickling off my lips. A handful of keys and a song to sing. Now how could you ask for more? And tickle the ivories, singing jive. I repeat what I said before. I like to take on an old piano. I like to play in sonata. I know I'll always be top of never with a handful of keys. tune that song. I like to vocalize, there's nothing swell. I gotta have some melody just to work off my lips. A handful of keys and a song to sing. How could you ask for more, eh? The tune in the ivories. Singing jive. Well, I repeat what I said before. I like to take on an old piano, and I like to play it in so melody. I know I'll always be tired now with a handful of keys. Thank you very much. It wasn't subtle at all, was it? We're going to do some Q&A. We'll lead up in a minute, but after this, we're going to slide into our normal Thursday night thing that we do every Thursday for almost 15 years with the RGB Trio. We've got DJ Holiday here. We're going to try to get her up at the beginning and then sing a song with us. And many other artists come in, so hopefully you can stick around and join us every other Thursday we're here, so you come back anytime you want. And I know some of you folks who were here last year came by several times throughout the year, and we really appreciate this, and I hope you discovered a really cool place here. So here's our dear friend, Lily Rickman.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Rev. Thank you. You raised the floor. So we have a moment here where you can ask a couple of questions. Yeah. You can ask a couple of questions of the band, of Bill and the Rev. This was amazing. Thank you very much. Oh, and if you're a community person, make sure you sign in over there. And student people sign in. And don't forget to tip your waitress badge, please. Okay, so what questions do we have? Okay, we're gonna have to kind of tone down the conversation so we can hear the questions.
What would be cool to happen when you try using the music? What would you like to see happen? Because it's now you got people coming downtown. You got Rose for L, you got Rose for the store, you got.
That's a good question. That reminds me of the part of my talk that I didn't talk about. Okay, let's repeat the question. What was the question? No, I know. What would you do to, if we could do anything with music in Detroit now, what would we do? What would we like to have happen? Well, okay, so I have strong feelings, because I talked about this before, about how, we had a great mayor once. His name was Coleman Young, back in the 80s, one of my favorite mayors, probably the best one the city ever had. And he said some things that sort of ruffled feathers. I don't care about that. It didn't bother me, because I knew where he was going. He wanted to help the people that lived in this city. Instead, a lot of people left with their money and all their influence and left the city. And we had trouble in the city for a long time because the economics of the city were way down. And we wondered why Coleman Young couldn't solve the problems when the federal administration, the Republican national government was not helping us at all in the city. So we had a rough time and a lot of whites fled the city. We all know about white flight. And I'm white, I actually left myself, not for those reasons, but for other reasons. But I didn't come back. And what I hope to happen is that I see a lot of suburbanites coming back to town and bringing money, bringing influence and power, which is great because the city needs money. But what we have to do is find a way to make sure that this doesn't happen like it did last time. That we don't have the whites living here and the blacks living there, and that they don't really respect each other and work with each other, that we don't displace the people who lived here all these last 20, 30, 40 years that stayed here and suffered through the rough economic times. We don't want to come in here and wipe them out and drive them away. We want them to be part of the solution. And that's what we have to have, is clubs like this, places like this, that respect that, and understand that this is not a black club, this is not a white club, this is not a... What it is a club that's trying to solve the problems united, with people working together. So any kind of music. I think we have to foster an idea of more respect for rap music in the white community. Actually, in the black community, there's a lot of misunderstanding about rap music. We have to have a better respect in the black community for the old styles of music that that Robert and I have been talking about, the ragtime and the stride and blues and all that stuff. We have to start teaching respect for all the history of music, all the different styles of music. And then have a club that's not a rap club or not a jazz club. We have to run a club that brings everybody together. So I'm all for music that is variety music. Places where you can share styles. Older people can come to a club and hear rap music. Young kids can come to a club and hear blues music. That would be my solution.
I have to echo the sentiments of what Bill was saying. One of the things that tends to separate you is this idea of you and the other. In church sometimes, there's a sermon that was preached like there are always three groups in every church. There's us, there's y'all, and there's them. And us, we're better than you, but at least we're not them. And in every place, in every community, you always have the us, the y'all, and the them. And ultimately, you have to realize that there's only us. I mean, that's it. And then when you start to take, if you will, pride or ownership and celebrate the diversity of the us, that's when you really start to win. That's when you start to win a championship. I mean, you think about the Pistons in their heyday. Without Isaiah, they don't win. Without Bill Laimbeer, they don't win. It's like, without the black man who can jump like a crazy man, they would, but without the white guy who can only jump 6 inches, they still don't win. So you start to understand that you celebrate one another because of our differences, and we celebrate those differences, and we come together to really appreciate who we are and where we've come from, and to tell that story. I think it becomes a really powerful and important thing. Some places, some places have that, and unfortunately, sometimes we've lost track of that, but we got to get back to that. So I agree with Bill. That's what I would like to see happen.
Do we have any other questions? That was a great question.
All right, well, I'm not an expert on that, and I'm not an expert on anything like that. So I just know a lot of things, a little bit about a lot of things. Detroit, I do know this, I'll tell you what I do know. A lot of Motown musicians were jazz musicians, after they got through recording Motown stuff, they would go and work in clubs and that. But Detroit is one of the richest cities for jazz musicians. This is a city that spawned more artists, more musical geniuses than, the Jones brothers, Elvin Jones, Stan Jones, that whole family, all from this area, Barry Harris, just a long, long list of famous artists who had to go to New York to make a living after a while. And many of them had to go to Europe to make a living. So I think that the jazz that developed here was, well, in my show that I do, I pay a lot of respect to New Orleans because I think New Orleans is the cradle, the birthplace of jazz. Well, obviously, it's the Buddy Bolden at the beginning of jazz, and then it was ragtime, and then it turned into stride and all the other stuff. Blues came out of that, and the South for sure. Definitely the tree of music came from New Orleans. It got up to Detroit, and certainly during after slavery and the freedom that was exhibited, a lot of blacks came to Detroit, Chicago, Kansas City, and they brought their culture, music with them. It's a rich culture that was very obvious in Detroit and Chicago, and a lot of people caught on to that. And so it's just part of it. It's part of ingrained in the people in this city. I mean, even though it's old now, and it's just like any history. Your grandfather is still in your memory. I mean, it's still all there. It's all part of history. And we're keeping it alive, just like Mozart. I still play Mozart. I mean, that's like 400 years ago. So, I mean, they're going to play jazz for a long time. And they're going to remember these people who created this stuff. And Detroit was one of the main cities that started it. So we should be really thrilled that we're from this region, although I'm not a statist or a cityist or anything like that. I don't believe in boundaries. I think we're all need help.
And it's funny that you mentioned, Harold McKinney. I mean, I had the privilege and the honor of knowing Harold He was one of those great musicians who championed this idea of music, and now, you know, the McKinneys continue on. But it didn't start with Harold. I mean, there were McKinney's cotton pickers back in the formative days of jazz. The Gabriel name, you know, was one of those names we associated with Detroit, and is still associated with the idea of what we call jazz. And when you think about it, there was called the TOBA, the Theater Owners and Booking Association. And before you had movie theaters, before, you know, when you had entertainment, you had these touring black artists who would go and they would do comedy, they would do vaudeville, they would do blues, they would do jazz, they would do all this other kind of stuff. And that circuit was called the TOBA, Theater Owners Booking Association, but the slang for it was Tough on Black Asses, because they would literally go from city to city. And Detroit, having such a major black population of folks who had moved north to build cars, and the other industry, the fine workers, domestics, and all that stuff, Detroit was a major stop on that. So, you know, there are some books that you can check out, some writers. The guy who comes immediately to mind is my friend Jim Gallagher, who did a lot of research on Detroit's early identity and its place in the pantheon of jazz and blues. And it's a pretty impressive story. You know, and you sometimes, again, you don't appreciate it until somebody asks that question. So,
yeah. The book the writer you referred to, Jim Gallagher and Lars Bjorn, they wrote a book called Before Motown. And you really should look it up. It's in the library if you want to buy one. But Before Motown tells about all these musicians that developed into Motown. They were jazz musicians, a lot of them blues players and big band players. So it doesn't start and stop with any one thing. It's all a continuum.
Okay.
Do either of you have a favorite gig that you've played in particular? I don't know. I'm sure you've played lots of gigs over the years, but maybe a few of them stand out.
Yeah, well,
you know, I think that the standard answer is the one you're playing now is your favorite one. But there you go. I do remember that there was a place that was called the Home of the Blues in Detroit. It's torn down now. It's called the Soup Kitchen Saloon. And the chili had the unfortunate name of Capital Punishment. It was a great chili though. It had onions and cheese and stuff. It was wonderful. But I remember one night we came to do a jam session, and the Soup Kitchen had been closed because of a private party. And it was like myself, the Butler twins, a guy by the name of Uncle Jesse White, and some really, you know, wonderful musicians who were a part of the Detroit blues scene then. And this guy said, I brought my daddy down, and I wanted to hear some blues tonight, and it's closed. I tell you what, man, I live over on Riot Hill, and I got a basement, and we got some chicken and some iced tea, and if y'all come over there, we can just, you know, would you play for my daddy? And that, for me, that was one of the most wonderful gigs I've ever had. Down in the basement, you know, just playing for this guy. Didn't make any money, but, you know, it was just a wonderful sort of organic experience. So we've had lots of those experiences, probably, you know, some paid, some not paid. But, you know, the idea of the spontaneity of just being asked to do what you do and to let, you know, God speak through you and through your music is a privilege, and it's not a right. So, you know, anytime you get a chance to do it, it's a good thing.
I've done so many different kinds of jobs in my life. I can't pick one for sure, but I do remember some of them stick out. I mean, like the first Bluegrass Festival, the annual festival, award festival I had here, I was on that one. I played with some well, there's a couple acts. I'm just going to pick two out of like 10,000 probably, but they mean a lot to me because I'm a political activist, and I really have respect for the last poets since they came out in the 60s. They're one of my favorite acts, very strong poets, and I got a chance to work with them, and that was the thrill of my life. I got a picture taken with them, and I'll never forget, after we did the concert, we went out to a brick wall outside the building and we took a picture of the four of us standing there. I was definitely out of place. And they were all there lined up, my heroes, the last popes. And I looked at the picture and I showed them, I said, you know, I'm going to use it on my next album, Bill Meyer with the last popes. And I mean, they're big people. I mean, I don't know if you know them, but that was a joke to them. They all laughed. Yeah, evolution will not be done. Well, I was Gil Scott Heron, but he was another one. I didn't get to work with him. But another great act I went with was Mary Baraka, which is a famous poet, radical poet. These kind of people who brought together the arts and social activism together. Those are the people I respect the most. So I enjoyed it. But I worked many Broadway shows, and that meant a lot to me, Mamma Mia, and endless stuff. They were all fun. But I have to admit, I probably, it's not because it's the good job I'm doing now, but Birds Here is probably one of the favorite jobs I've ever done in my life. Because, I don't know if you saw the movie Color Purple. You know that great film, Spielberg movie, actually. There's a scene in the middle of it where, at night, these guys go out, they're going into the woods. And it's dark and quiet, and they're walking through the woods, and all of a sudden they start hearing something, and they get a little closer, and hear some music all of a sudden, and some noise, and they get closer, and it gets louder and louder, and all of a sudden there's a big opening in the woods, and there's this little place, and you open the door, and it's like the juke joint. And you open the door, and all these people are dancing, whooping it up, and the band's playing, and it's like everything I've loved in my life, all that kind of music. And it's an African-American culture thing, and I would never have a chance to do that. I mean, I'd never walk through that woods and get a chance to go in and discover those people when I go there. It was a private black thing down there. So here I am, I start working at Birds, and I come here and I feel the same way here myself, because I've walked into somebody else's culture and learned the music. And almost every night I'm in awe of what's going on here, because this is a thrill to me to be, first of all, accepted and to play with people in a different culture, not only African Americans, but when I play Arabic music or Jewish music, anything like that, but to be accepted by those people because they know I respect their culture and their music. That's the biggest thrill to me. And Birds is the place for me, because every week is different and it's fun. And the people I made, the friends I made here, is beyond music. So it's probably my favorite gig.
Any more questions? Did I see a hand back there?